have a structure that extends that length, that height, almost 7 feet away from your window, from your house, and from your side yard. It just is undeniably a huge shading issue. And that's a concern my clients have. That's a concern that some of the other neighbors have. You know, it doesn't matter the benefits to the town of Foxborough. Again, the impact is whether it's going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. So with that, I want to defer to Horace or Roberta if they have any comments or concerns that they want to raise.
Horace Jones, 56 Neponset Heights Ave. First of all, I'd like to thank the Jacksons for doing the improvements that they have already made. But my main concern is that the house is being built very, very close to the property line. I think right now, as it stands with the property line as we're saying it exists, it's closer to 5 feet than it is to 6 feet. So they're going to be less than around 5 to 6 feet from my property line. And I only have about 9 or 10 feet to the property line from the house. So it's very close. The other thing is that the size of the house, when you look at it, not from the total footage that was read off, but the house is, including the garage, is going to be 76 feet long, and my house is only 33 feet. So I'm going to have a view of a home that is just, that's my view, the home. I'm not going to have any more green. It goes beyond the house on both sides, and it just obstructs the green space that I have to look at now. The big difference between the old house and the new house is that they're being built 90 degrees apart. The new house is going to go this way, where the old house went this way, and so I'm going to lose a lot of light. And that's basically the size of the house that's concerning me, and the closeness to the property line. We're going to have like an alley in Dorchester to get between the houses if it goes up. And we don't have much space to begin with. That's all I have to.
Okay, thank you. Question, Jeff, for you, Mr. Lavoie and the Jacksons. Architectural plans, have any been prepared?
No, they're trying to go through this. It's going to cost, thousands to do final designs. And I would point out, to Attorney Marinelli's comment about a subdivision. Peter's plans are not sketch plans. What I was talking about, sketch plans are the elevation and the 2 floor plans that we submitted to try to show you where we are right now. Mm-hmm. Those are sketches. But in a subdivision, the proponent rarely provides architectural drawings. They show the approximate location of the house on the lot, and that's it for subdivision. So the comment about sketch plans, I understand the issue with architectural plans. With regard to that issue, I think if the board is inclined to grant this petition, the conditions so that the building inspector, upon application for a building permit, or your board, could determine whether there was anything that was material or a substantial departure from the floor plans that we've submitted. And if so, we could come back in here. I think that would be a fairer way to go. They've purchased the lot, they've spent money on permitting, but they don't want to go to full design on a house before they know if it's going to be built or altered or anything like that. So that was my question about architecturals is, I know you asked for floor plans, so we came up with kind of the best we could under the circumstances. I would like to clarify another thing. Peter and I were looking at the initial designs that, the modular that were designed, and it shows that the house is approximately 23 feet or so above the front grade. And you could, I have to confess that I've actually never been able to decipher Foxborough's determination of house grade and house height. But if the board were inclined to grant the petition, there could be a condition on height, say, above the grade on the south, which is the, front of the house, in order to protect that concern. But I show it, Peter and I were trying to think about what it is, but there's a line that shows 22.5, and then we estimate, and there may be another foot or so for floor height. So 26 is sort of a liberal estimation of what the height might be. I would point out that, when you consider the space between the Jones house and the Jackson house, you'd consider both sidelines at setback. So it's really about 12 or 13 feet between the two homes. The Joneses' walkway appears to encroach on the Jackson lot. I don't think the Jacksons will ever ask the Joneses to remove it or move it. I don't know, but I don't think that's a problem. And I would point out that the Jones easterly sideline is 3.3 feet. So this is a neighborhood where there are multiple very narrow sidelines. And that, it's a larger house. It's consistent with the house that someone would want to build, given the level of investment. If you look at the first floor plan, it's not a huge house. It really has one big room, kitchen, dining, living, and 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It's not a mini mansion or anything like that.
Mr. Marinelli, you were raising your hand.
Oh, if I may, I just wanted to bring up, I only referenced.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
Yeah. Well, the Chengs are here now, so.
I only reference sketch plans, conceptual plans, and definitive plans for purposes of showing, in your process, you have multiple hearings. Normally, something is not granted in one hearing, and there's several steps. And so, of course, there's give and take. There's, there's additional plans provided with more information, more detail. We certainly are not asking for finished architectural stamp plans, because that'll cost a lot of money. But we want something better than what's being proposed, because the original plan that was provided said, and I'm very clear pretty much on this, elevation may be subject to change or something along that line. So it seems like it's, as an attorney, as zoning members, planning board members, you have to always be concerned about what is the exact figure I'm working on. Planning board is enforcing zoning, and zoning has a table on heights. We're not saying it's going to be 35, we know that, but let's identify and let's be clear on exactly what the height is going to be, And don't be confused with the 23, and I appreciate the explanation, Jeff, because you have to figure in the elevation of the foundation and the grade and all of that. So if it's 26 that he's saying, we're going to go with 26, but we'd like to see something a little more definitive on that. And that was all. So, but thanks. Oh, and one other thing. There was mention that, yes, the purpose of zoning is to absolutely use a piece of property. Homeowner buys a piece of property, and they certainly are allowed to develop that piece of property. There's no question about that. However, you always have to be concerned about the best use of the property, not the maximum use of the property. There's a distinction. So we're focusing here on what is the appropriate and what is appropriate for the neighborhood, for the abutter, not maximizing. And that's, I think we've carried that in our presentation, so thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard? I'll ask you to identify yourself by name and address.
Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, sorry, I was late. Somehow the technology, something not working, so, I just, came over here right away, okay? And so maybe something talk about it before I came, but I don't know. So I just say what I plan to say.
Tell us who
Okay,
you are.
my name?
I know who you are and know where you live, but for the record, please tell us.
I'm Henry, and my wife Cindy. We are from 52 Nipponside Heights, so just next to the 54. And first, I really like to welcome our new neighbors, Tom and Ruth. And Chapter 275, zoning document, table 4-1. All residential structure shall conform to the dimensional regulations. The minimum side yard shall be 15 feet, 15 feet. Since it is a pre-existing non-conforming single-family residential structure, so it should not expand to the side. Again, the width of the new house should not be extended. Also, Section 5.4, non-conforming single residential structures may be reconstructed or extended. Such extension does not increase the habitable floor area of the structure by more than 25%, not more than 25%. I believe these statements have their important meanings to our community, especially in those areas. The houses are very small, land is very tight. Okay, and it's important meaning, to our community because of the safety and because of the privacy. Again, because of the safety and the privacy. However, to my best of my knowledge, the proposed house is almost double of the existing footprint, which does not even include the garage area. In summary, for the reconstruction of 54 Nipponside Heights, certainly, first, I really welcome our new neighbors. Second, according to the regulation requirements, the width of the new house should not be extended, and the footprint should only be increased by 25%. Thank you for your attention. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard? Okay, I'm going to lose my voice now. We'll see whether my voice or my glasses go first. Shortly after the... Oh,
One more comment, I forgot.
okay.
One more comment, sorry. The house, I remember correctly, for the first zoning meeting, my understanding from the meeting was the house was not extended, in terms of the width, was not extended toward my house. Today, I just saw the whatever the plan, okay, it does further extended toward my house, especially, there is a property stick, okay, is extended to the toward my house from the existing structures. Okay, thank you.
If I,
There's no encroachment, further encroachment on the side yard, correct?
no, it's staying at 6 feet. I believe the 52 Neponset Heights, just by way of comparison, it's probably also a 5 or 6 foot sideline, relatively recently built home. That one is a 2-story colonial, 2,132 square feet, not counting basement, not counting garage. It has a 2-car garage. I believe that one was built in 2011.
And it was a
So that's
special-
more of a type of thing that could well continue to happen in the neighborhood. It's unusual that they would criticize somewhat of a similar project. But
And that was a special permit, not us as members, but this board approved. On August 25th, we received a letter from Arthur Baldoff of 61 Neponset Heights Avenue, and he said, and it's to the Board of Appeals, to my attention, this letter is about the purpose of the home to be built on Lot 20, 54 Neponset Heights Ave. Because I was not involved enough to be notified about the meeting and not recognized to speak as such, I did not want to see another very large house on a very small lot, as was allowed at 52 Neponset Heights Ave. Eliminate the garage or downsize the house. This is not a suburb of a city like Boston. Now, I indicated earlier I would, even though we're not a conservation commission, indicate to the audience where I've been told the Conservation Commission currently stands, or where the board has been told the Conservation currently stands on the matter. And what I'm going to do is read the comments that Jane Sears Pierce, the town's conservation agent, made to the issues that she had raised that were brought to our attention in August. So first I will be reading her, in a sense, I'll be reading both her August email and her response to me, which is dated October 14th, or her response to the August email that's dated on October 14th. Number one, she had said that the proposed house foundation may not extend any closer to the water body than the current foundation. She indicated that this has been done. Number two, if the foundation and other impervious areas are proposed to be increased, then square foot calculations will be required for the lot's current versus proposed impervious surfaces. And she indicated that this has been done. Number three, no grading, tree clearing, or other alterations are allowed in the waterfront's 25-foot no-activity zone, with the exception of repairing retaining walls, working from the upland side of the wall only, and she said not proposed at this time. Second, restoring, naturalizing the NAZ by planting native species, done. Rebuilding stairs, steps to the water and/or, and she indicated that's done. And vista pruning, the selective cutting of branches to create a water view. And she didn't indicate anything on that. Number four, if the lot is narrow, tight, like this lot, any work proposed and approved in the 25-foot no-activity zone must be completed, then approved in writing by the commission, or me, meaning Ms. Pierce, before any foundation work or construction can begin. And she responded that no work other than invasive plant removal by hand is proposed in the 25-foot non-activity zone. For your information, the 271.4 floodplain elevation has been added to the plan, but this elevation should not have any effect on the proposed project. 5, the use of dry wells or rain gardens to infiltrate clean roof runoff and/or LID techniques, in parentheses, rain gardens, vegetative swales, etc., for driveway runoff is usually requested and encouraged. And she indicates that dry wells and a gravel driveway are proposed, so this has been done. Number 6, decks that extend closer to the water than the previous foundation may be allowed. but their footings will usually need to be dug by hand, and she indicated this has been done. 7, riprap is not allowed near water bodies, but native rocks may be used to help stabilize slopes in a naturalized way, and she's indicating non-applicable. 8, 25-foot no activity zone bounds may be required to notify current and future homeowners that no activity is allowed beyond the bounds, and she indicated not applicable. And 9, the commission's goal, if for projects to result in a net environmental benefit through the use of LID techniques, previous pavers, decreased lawn areas, 25-foot no activity zone restoration, landscaping with native plants, new septic systems, etc., the proposed plan appears to create a net benefit. So my understanding is that although they have not issued their order of conditions, conservation is satisfied. And that being the case, because we had obviously continued the matter to get feedback from conservation, I think we can proceed unless anybody has any questions, concerns, or other issues that we need to address with them.
If I can add just one thing.
Yeah.
I watched the conservation meeting when it was rebroadcast, or on YouTube, and I think by moving the house, they actually were able to save some trees that otherwise could have been cut. So I think I heard Jane saying that that was a good thing, and to use construction techniques that kept heavy equipment off of the drip edge area and stuff like that. So that was another. I didn't hear anything about vista pruning either, but the site changes do actually help a couple of the existing large trees remain.
Do we have any other questions?
I do not.
Take a motion to,
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
all in favor? I guess I'll start. I am satisfied that the requirements for a special permit have been complied with. I recognize that the larger footprint of the proposed residence in relation to, or in contrast with the existing structure, is going to both increase habitable area and increase gross floor area, and I recognize that that will obviously make a denser use of the property than at the present time. I recognize as well that this is going to cause some shading on the Jones property. It's going to reduce some light and some air and their ability to enjoy the sunset over the reservoir. And I recognize that that is detrimental to Mr. and Mrs. Jones. By the same token, Mrs. Ferrante's not here tonight, but she complained last week, or last session, that she would have to look at garages and also have her view of the reservoir impaired. Clearly, that's detrimental to both those families. But I don't see it personally as being substantial, number one. And number two, it affects two neighbors and not the neighborhood in its entirety. There is going to be some improvement to the neighborhood and to the town by the elimination of a home that is in poor physical condition and its replacement with one that I think will be attractive. And I recognize that although the house itself, the proposed house itself, is going to be considerably larger than the current home, the habitable area is not significantly larger than other houses in the neighborhood. It is significantly larger than some, but not all. Looking at the houses that are on the abutters list, I took a less expansive view of the neighborhood, Jeff, than you did. I believe that 5 houses, there are 15 properties with houses on the abutters list. 5 will have greater habitable area than the proposed home. 1 is roughly the same, within a couple of feet of it, So we're pretty much in the middle as far as size. So although there is a substantial increase from the current house to the proposed house, I don't see that as being substantially detrimental to the neighborhood because we're really within the middle. The reason I was concerned about gross floor area, not just for the issues that Mr. Marinelli raised, but I wanted to be able to compare gross floor area for the proposed house with others in the neighborhood. And again, looking at the abutters list, and assuming that Kurt's calculations were pretty much, on the mark,
Close, yeah.
I think there are 4 houses that have larger gross floor area than this one. So again, although there is that increase, I don't see any substantial detriment to the neighborhood. Again, we're dealing with, throughout the neighborhood, undersized properties, and that's most apparent on the side, on the Neponset Reservoir side of the street. These are narrow properties. No matter what you're going to build, that's larger than what is there now. It's going to increase density. I believe that there is a broad range of homes in the neighborhood. There's no specific type of home. There's no home that's characteristic of the neighborhood. So I don't think that there's any adverse consequence by building a home of this nature, to the neighborhood. Looking at the criteria that we set forth, for special permits in section 10.4, again, there's no single style or design of homes in the area because we're replacing an existing home, or we propose to replace an existing home with a new one. There's not going to be any impact on utilities or public services, on traffic or safety. I think the conditions and requirements that the Conservation Commission will be imposing are going to address environmental issues and concerns. The town is going to benefit by the fact that there's going to be an improvement in the quality of the home, an improvement in the physical characteristics of the home, and there'll be some minor benefit to the town in additional tax revenue. So ultimately, I don't think that there's any adverse consequence to the neighborhood as a whole. I don't see any adverse effect on the character of the neighborhood as a whole. With that, who wants us to go next, Lorraine or Kurt?
I would just really, echo everything you just said, Barney. I don't see an adverse effect on the neighborhood itself. Recognizing, of course, that neighbors do have their concerns, and I understand that, but I do agree with Barney that the adverse effects are minimal, and there are houses that are of similar size in the neighborhood, and that the context of the neighborhood is not one type of house, so it's in keeping in context with the neighborhood.
Lorraine?
So definitely hearing the concerns of the neighbors about the proximity of the homes. I think that the change in that entrance, I hope, will help alleviate to a certain extent the neighbors on that side. And, again, they're the two, and the one directly across that would obviously be most impacted by this construction. But, I think for all the reasons in terms of, the dimensions and the general neighborhood appearance and how it fits in with all of those, I have to agree with what's already been stated, that there is not a detriment to the neighborhood, and again, it does meet everything that's set forth in our special permits section that we are looking for in terms of benefit and impact in general. And I think especially since Conservation Commission has essentially approved the placement of it now, it moving back, I think, it should be approved for the special permit.
Kim?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. I think I want to go a little bit out of order, or out of our typical practice. I think I want to make the motion. I've got some conditions, and then we've got to discuss whether any others should be added. So a motion would be to grant the requested special permit by finding that construction of the proposed residence will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood in which it exists than the existing nonconformity, and determining that the adverse effects of the proposed residence will not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the town of Foxborough or the neighborhood in which the subject property is situated, in view of the particular characteristics of that site and of the proposed residence in relation to that site. The conditions that I want to impose are, number one, the proposed residence shall be a two-story structure that is 27.5 feet in width by 52 feet in length, with habitable floor area at full build-out that shall not exceed 1,987 square feet. Two, the location of the proposed residence shall be shown on, and I'll, in the decision, give a title to this, but on the plan, the resource area plan, such that the proposed residence shall not be set back less than, I think, Jeff, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, 55.51 feet from the Ponset Heights Avenue.
That appears to be correct.
Okay, shall have a rear yard setback that shall not be less than 62.56 feet.
Well, that goes, yeah, that's to the wetland, to the retaining wall, not to the back property line, but that's
But that's fine,
That's-
because that's the
the closest that they
place, yeah.
approved, so.
Okay. And shall have side yards of not less than 6 feet on its westerly side and not less than 6.87 feet at its closest point on its easterly side. The proposed residence shall comply in all respects with the conditions and requirements imposed by the Town of Foxborough Conservation Commission. That's number 3. Number 4 would be that demolition of the subject property's existing structure and construction of the proposed residence shall be restricted to Monday through Saturday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. What I want to talk about is the height and more definitive plans, suggestions.
Well, I think we would need at least a plan that is a little bit more developed than, what we have in front of us that's going to show actual dimensions, actual heights, It doesn't have to be a set of construction documents, but at least something that's, schematic or developed in some way that shows us the dimensions. And with that, if there could be a material list on what the exterior materials would be.
So if we were to say definitive plan showing the dimensions of the proposed residence indicating exterior materials, dimensions obviously would indicate height. Anything else in that regard?
We'll show the exact side dimensions on that.
And once we have those plans, would they speak with the building commissioner regarding that? Would they come back to us?
Well, I think what I'd like to do, what I would like, and I think what we've done in the past, is specify a date by which we would receive them so that they could be attached as an exhibit to the decision. Give me a sense as to how soon you can get something to that effect.
So I think it would be preferable to condition it, as I mentioned before, that no building permit may be issued until the following are submitted, including the materials list, because we have to have this permit, we have to see if it's appealed, we have to go through the appeal, and if we don't trigger that, sooner than later, so procedurally, no objection at all to giving those plans. And then that's why initially I proposed that the building commissioner could make a determination as to whether anything about the dimensions, floor plan, et cetera, constituted a material change to the issued special permit, in which event we would have to come in to your board to modify it. And again, so we just need to get to the point where we have a special permit that gets filed with the clerk, does it get appealed or not, rather than sort of an open-ended situation. That's what I would propose, that, and I don't know how to do it, or we could add more detail in terms of what's shown on the plans that we've submitted now.
It's more the dimensions than the detail.
Approximately 26. Barney's got, and Barney, actually, on your first condition, can we add the garage to that? Because you were calling out the dimensions of just the house itself, just to avoid any confusion there. But so you understand that we just need to get to that point where the special permit is something that could be filed with the clerk. And then a subsequent determination can be made if we have to come back in.
All right, let's get this one straightened away, and then we'll go back to the first one. So if we were to say definitive plan showing dimensions of the proposed residence and indicating its exterior materials to be submitted to the town of Foxborough Building Commissioner, and subject to his satisfaction as a condition to the issuance of any building permit? Satisfactory?
That's fine, yep.
Could we possibly include in there exterior materials in keeping with the neighborhood and to be approved by the building commissioner? Do we want to say something like that?
I just think there is a pretty wide variety of materials. I mean, the house next door is modular.
It's a few doors down.
I'm sorry?
A few doors down the modulars, but
Okay.
we were expecting it to be vinyl-sided, so. There's people with the, shingles, there's people with vinyl, there's people with lots of different things.
Yeah, I don't think there's any single type that we'd say.
Right, absolutely, right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, so let's say, again, definitive plan showing dimensions of the proposed residence, indicating exterior materials to be submitted to the town of Foxborough Building Commissioner, subject to his satisfaction as a condition to the issuance of any building permit. All right, let me go back to the first one then. So the first one was that the residence shall be constructed in accordance with the proposed, shall be a two-story structure that is 27.5 feet in width by 52 feet in length, with habitable floor area at full build-out not to exceed 1,987 square feet. So if we were to say a two-story structure that's 27.5 feet in width by 52 feet in length, with a garage that is
24 by 20.
24 by 24.
It's not dimensioned.
And then the deck, I believe, is 12 by 27 and a half.
That includes the stairway.
Yeah, it's flush with the,
I'm sorry?
Well, the deck includes a stairway, but it's all in, it's the same width as the house, deck and stair.
So what you're saying now is that proposed residence shall be a two-story structure that is 27.5 feet in width by 52 feet in length, with a garage that is 24 feet by 24 feet, and a deck that is 12 feet by 27.5 feet. With habitable floor area at full build-out that shall not exceed 1,987 square feet. You want me to read the rest of them again?
I don't.
Anybody want to read the rest of them? What we all said.
That's good.
Anything else anybody can think of?
Just a question. So the basement that was calculated in there is not in that 1,900 square?
No.
Basement is not considered habitable,
Not habitable?
even if it's a finished basement for some
Okay,
strange
That's what I was
reason.
wondering.
Although I'm happy that that's the case.
Okay, thank you.
The assessor's office doesn't consider it to be habitable floor area.
Okay.
I think attics are not, decks are not, garages are not. Anything else? Okay, motion?
Motion to approve special permit for 54 Neponset Heights Avenue.
Second?
All in favor? I would expect within the next 2 weeks, we will have prepared and signed the decision. Mr. Marinelli, you know that once it's filed with the town clerk, there's a 20-day appeal period. You certainly have the right, as does any party in interest, to appeal. I would really hope that, as disappointing as it may be, rather than avail yourself of that right, you welcome the Jacksons to the neighborhood with, friendship and understanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's really such a tight neighborhood,
I have a question. Your footprint is already 1,400 square feet. How can you make it two-story less than 19 something?
So the second floor is only about 500 square feet.
You believe it? The second floor is halfway.
Yes.
Okay, minutes from last meeting, I made one correction on what Diana had written. She
Yeah,
put too many-
accidentally-
She put too many zeros
I
on.
put too many zeros in the existing house. I said it was 8,000 square feet.
Which my clients would put too many zeros in my stuff.
So they would be as amended to be approved.
So, anybody else have any questions, or? Okay,
Motion
motion?
to approve.
Motion to adjourn?
No, we got two more things.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second? All in favor? Okay. Okay, I've got to make a statement. I think everybody saw the email that the Galanti
It's
sent
in there, yeah.
relative.
You should have it there.
Yep. I mean, has anybody not seen the email?
I don't think I've seen it.
It's under your letter.
Who are the Galantis?
As you remember, as you may remember, you were here last month. Why don't you quickly read it?
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I read it, yes.
Okay. And you have, okay.
Well, other than the spelling mistakes.
So anyhow, let me read this statement. The Zoning Board of Appeals in 2015 approved a comprehensive permit authorizing Hanover RS Limited Partnership to construct 248 apartment units in 5 separate 4-story buildings. On June 9, 2020, the board received a request from Bizzuto Management, the property manager for the apartment complex, on behalf of its new owner, MCPF Foxborough LLC, to modify the comprehensive permit to allow construction of an exercise area for dogs owned by apartment residents. The board, in accordance with applicable law, considered such a request as a general business matter at its July 16, 2020 meeting. Because the comprehensive permit request was strongly opposed by neighborhood residents, with the board's decision subsequently subject to litigation, the board determined that the requested modification was substantial and accordingly should be subject to a public hearing. The public hearing was held by the board on August 20, 2020. 2 residents of the apartment complex appeared at the hearing to speak in favor of the proposal. No one appeared at the hearing in opposition to the matter. An email to the board from Diane and Eric Galante of 2 Robert Street was read into the record of the hearing. Mr. and Mrs. Galante expressed opposition to the proposed modification, principally stating, among other things, that in the initial permitting process, Hanover did not work with neighbors to lessen the impact of the apartment complex by refusing to decrease building height or the density of the project. The board approved the requested modification with specific conditions imposed. Mr. and Mrs. Galante forwarded an email to the board on August 21, 2020, expressing their right as town residents to give our input, disappointment in what they believe to be disparaging comments that were made at the hearing about them and their neighbors, and requesting a formal public apology for such statements. By letter dated August 24, 2020, I informed Mr. and Mrs. Galante in my capacity as chairman of the board that I would address this matter during the general business section of the board's next meeting. I have given this matter considerable thought, perhaps more than it is due. As stated in my letter to Mr. and Mrs. Galante, I take seriously the work that the board performs and how it is perceived by town residents. I am, and I believe justifiably so, proud of the board's work. The responsibility of the board is to render decisions that it believes to be appropriate under the circumstances. In so doing, we consider the opinions, positions, and viewpoints of all who appear at our hearings or who express their concerns to us in writing. This was done both with respect to consideration of the initial comprehensive permit request and as reflected by reading Mr. and Mrs. Galante's email into the record at the modification hearing. The board recognizes the right of town residents to express their opinions. We understand and recognize that town residents may disagree with our determinations. We recognize the right of town residents to appeal and thereby contest our decisions by means of litigation. I am disappointed that Mr. and Mrs. Galante considered certain of the statements that were made at the modification hearing to have been disparaging. That, however, was not our intent. Accordingly, I will neither apologize personally nor on behalf of the board for such statements. Anybody else want to comment?
It was very well put. Who made the disparaging comments about the dogs or about the neighbors? I can't recall.
I think that might be a matter of how one perceives comments.
Was it from somebody who was attending the meeting? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other business?
No, I don't, there was someone inquiring today about getting a variance for exterior staircase for a garage, but I'm not sure if she's going to pursue it.
Okay, and we've heard nothing from Frank Spillane? Okay.
I haven't even seen him, so I don't know.
Yeah, it was more than several weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago now. Frank Spillane met with the building commissioner and me on a proposal to add an apartment unit to a building that currently has 4 apartments. And his question was whether it needed a variance or a permit or what have you. I don't know if they've decided not to go ahead with it or what, but that's out there.
Yeah, I
As a
haven't.
possibility. But other than that, we've got nothing cooking. Really going ahead into the future, I would not be surprised if we have 1 and maybe 2 comprehensive permit requests next year. One would be, if we have it, at some point we'll have it from the Housing Authority, property on Walnut
Walnut
Street.
Street.
And there's a possibility Mike Sagon's property on Moore Street, and I think he wants to develop that, and there's a possibility of that as well. So, time will tell. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Thank you.
If we can get off.